Let's go inside the Fox Sports 102.9 studios with Chase Robinson for WKXX Live.
Good Friday afternoon. Welcome in. It is WKXX Live here on Fox Sports 102.9. Chase Robinson here. Got Gerhard Mathangani alongside as we have almost made it through a full week.
Yeah, exactly. It was one of those things where I was like, well, we make it through the first day, we're fine. And now we're through the first week, so we're getting closer and closer. And you guys haven't kicked me off the air yet, so it's been really good. It's been really fun. This week has absolutely flown by. I know we've said that basically all week long, but it certainly has. Yeah,
it's been a great week, and we got a great show to end this week. As coming up in just a few minutes, around 2:15. Excited to talk with the new women's golf coach at Jacksonville State, Robbie Fields. He'll join us at 2:15. And Gerhard, you've been covering Jacksonville State for a long time. Coach James Hobbs, of course, long tenure there at Jacksonville State. Actually started the women's program back in 1995. So Coach Fields is just the second women's golf coach in JSU history.
Exactly. 45 years was Coach Hobbs' career. It spanned a couple different sports as well because he started off in basketball and then migrated over to golf. And as you said, started that women's golf program. He has been the face of Jacksonville State golf for a very long time. And they've put together successful programs, both on the men's and women's side. And so they always say you don't want to follow the legend, but it feels like with Coach Fields, they've really got a good candidate right now to fill in that spot. And obviously he knows what this program is. This program attracts a lot of top talent. So I'm sure he's really excited.
Yeah, so we'll be talking with the new Jacksonville State women's golf coach, Robbie Fields, coming up at 2:15. As we do every Friday, Brian Mintz will join us at 3 o'clock with the Etowah County Fellowship of Christian Athletes. And we'll talk lots of college football today. We'll get into some NFL as well. We're 2 weeks away from high school football season starting. And a lot of teams will have jamborees next week, and then week 0 on the 19th. That's hard to believe that that's almost here.
It certainly is. And then we had the Hall of Fame game yesterday. So it feels like, this is the part of year that in your mind, you always think of the training part of football. You don't necessarily think about the competitive side of football until a little bit later. But because of the way the schedules work and the way that the schedule's bumped up with the jamborees and whatnot in high school, and then also with the NFL and the preseason games and the Hall of Fame game being this first week in August, we're getting very close to the competition part and the games that actually count here in a few weeks in high school and college ball.
Yeah, it is right around the corner here, but baseball's still going, and that's where I want to start today. We talked in depth yesterday about this Braves-Mets series that began in New York last night. The Braves just couldn't quite get going last night. Mets went out to, I think, a 5-0 lead, and Braves kind of chipped away. But the Mets hang on to win game 1 of this 5-game series, 6-4. And Kyle Wright was the starter. He's been solid all season long, but he had one of those games last night, probably his ugliest performance of the year.
Certainly. The thing about young pitchers, and I've said this yesterday and I said this the day before, the thing about young pitchers is it's not necessarily the pitching element early in the year. It's as you get in deeper and later in the year and you're not used to pitching this much. I mean, you could point to, maybe in high school and that blends into your travel league and, you get a lot of innings in. However, on the big league stage, it's a different ball game. And we're starting to see that a little bit. As you mentioned, I think it's a blip on the radar more so than it is indicative of what we'll see from Kyle Wright moving forward. But yeah, 6 innings pitched, 6 earned runs on 7 hits. The last time he gave up 6 runs was against the Boston Red Sox back on May the 10th. And so this snapped a really long winning streak for him. Going into this game, he had a 6-game winning streak, his first loss since June 18th at the Cubs. So to me, it's not a cause for concern. However, for the Braves, I did like the fight to get back into the game, and they just couldn't pull it off at the end.
Another streak that was broken that I thought was really interesting is Ronald Acuna, his first home run since July 8th.
Wow.
That's a long time for a guy like that to go without hitting a home run after all he's done this season and last season.
Yeah, he had a really big slump, and you would figure all the great players figure it out, and they figure out how to get back on track. And maybe that home run for Acuna was the get back on track hit that he needed to get things going and get the bats really popping for him. The Braves really need that as they move forward. They have the 3rd best slugging percentage in the entire major leagues. And so if they can get that going, obviously the Mets have great pitching. They threw out a great pitcher yesterday, and Carlos Carrasco had 6 innings pitched and 3 earned runs and 6 Ks. He really settled in, and his last 3 strikeouts there at the very end of his last innings pitched. That was, to me, was kind of the key for him. It was Rosario, Riley, and Olsen that he struck out, and even Dansby Swanson before that. So really the last 4 batters that he faced, and it really helped that team as they moved forward to the last 2 innings to get the final 6 outs of the game. So he pitched a really good game. But for the Braves, I think if the bats can get rolling, then they'll have a shot here in these next 4.
Yeah, absolutely. Mets 4.5 game lead now over the Braves in the NL East. You've got 4 more games against the Mets. So you're going to leave this series still behind in the NL East. But at this point, the amount of baseball that's left to be played, especially against this one team, that's all right.
Exactly. Like we mentioned yesterday, it was so odd that both teams have played north of 100 games, but they'd only played each other 7 times. And then they almost course correct by playing each other 9 times in about a 2-week span. So we'll get to see some really good baseball in New York, and then they come down in a couple of weeks down to Atlanta. So game 1 is usually it's not cause for concern. However, this is a very pivotal series, and I do believe the Braves will be able to bounce back. If they can get a split in New York, I think they'll like that and be able to take the series back at home. I think they'll be in good shape.
Yes. So back in action tonight, 6:10 first pitch tonight. Doubleheader tomorrow, and they'll get going 12:10 tomorrow. And Sunday, or for the first game, and then the second one 30 minutes following the conclusion there, and then Sunday at 12:40. Let's jump to the phone lines here. Welcome into WKXX Live. Who do we got here?
This is Robbie Fields. I'm with the Jacksonville State Women's Golf Team. I think I'm supposed to be on at 2:15.
Yeah, absolutely. Hold on 1 second. We'll get you on. We'll take a break here. We'll come back with more WKXX Live. We'll talk with the new Jacksonville State head golf coach, Robbie Fields. We'll do that on the other side. Stick around.
I've got a math question for you. When you add tolerance, subtract prejudice, and
We are back on this Friday afternoon. It is WKXX live here on Fox Sports 102.9. Chase Robinson and Gerhard Mathangani alongside this afternoon. And it's exciting times, Gerhard, at Jacksonville State. A new women's golf coach has been hired. Robbie Fields coming to lead the Gamecocks women's golf program. He is joining us right now. Coach Fields, thanks for coming on with us. How are you today?
I'm good. How about you?
Doing great. Glad to have you on. Glad to have you at Jacksonville State and leading this program and just the second head coach in Jacksonville State women's golf history. But tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, what kind of led you to want to pursue golf coaching and led you to Jacksonville State.
Yeah, well, this isn't too far from home for me. I'm originally from Hartselle, so just a couple hours up the road, and just playing golf, and skipped out on playing college golf to go study golf at Mississippi State in the PGM program, and got to do some internships there with teaching, and kind of got the idea of coaching from going with my old high school team to the state tournament back in 2015, and just kind of worked towards that. Got the opportunity to work with the team at Mississippi State my senior year, and where we went to a regional and missed out by a few shots, and went to ECU for 3 years, and had the opportunity to follow up Coach Hobbs here, who has obviously done an incredible job with the program, and having talked to him about it and everything just had me really excited. And being 2 hours from home instead of 10 makes it a little bit better too.
Yeah, I'm sure that's the case. Coach Fields with us here on WKXX Live. Coach, you have, as you talked about, a coaching background both at the college level and then also at the high school level as well. Golf to me has always been a really interesting sport to coach as a team sport because it's individuals playing against the course. However, you're doing it all under one logo, one uniform, so to speak. What are some of the things that you've picked up along the way as you've learned to teach the game of golf to individuals, but at the same time trying to help out from a team perspective? Obviously, you had a lot of success in high school and then doing the same thing on the college level, both at Mississippi State and at East Carolina. What are some of the things you've picked up along the way from coaching philosophies in a sport that's an individual sport within the confines of a team game?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is just in practice and finding a way to balance, working as a team, but also working individually. And I like having heavy competition in practice with games, which makes it fun, but also when they're competing, constantly, it helps. There's not always head-to-head drills. Our sport, we're not always just going out and playing or simulating the competition. So that's the big part. And then it's kind of funny, you pick a lineup, and some coaches will do it just based on how qualifying goes, but it can actually get into who plays best next to who. If you got one girl that really pushes another, you want them back to back, so they're seeing each other, seeing one make birdies, and let that feed off the rest. So that's been one of the more interesting things that I've picked up on in coaching a team, an individual sport, but as a team.
I know you. It's a new job. You're going to have to get in and learn the team. But have you had a chance to kind of look back at last season and kind of look at what you have coming back for this year as far as Jacksonville State?
Yeah, so it's going to be a lot of new. I won't be the only first-timers here because we're going to have 5 freshmen on the team. We've got 2 coming back, and then bringing in a transfer who will be a redshirt freshman. So, Claire, who will be a COVID senior the 5th year, I've met with the team, had a Zoom a couple of days ago to introduce myself, and I've already talked with Claire and Paula, our 2 returners, this year, just to get a gauge on, hey, what have y'all liked? What could we do better? But, Claire's had an awesome career here. She actually, last I looked, so she shot even par in the Florida State Open today, round 1, and I think is in the top 10. So really excited about her, and Paula had a strong finish at conference. And then the players we've got coming in, we've got 2 girls from Georgia and 3 international players, and they've all had really good junior careers, really good international careers, and haven't gotten to see them play, but just from a record standpoint and scoring, I'm really excited. And really excited to kind of have other people going through the same thing that I am, being very new to Jacksonville State and their college golf journey.
Yeah, one of the things that you just mentioned is going to piggyback off the question that I have right here. So obviously, Coach Hobbs started this women's golf program, and he's been a part of Jacksonville State athletics for 45 years. And you added you were kind of a breath of fresh air. You and the rookies that you have and the transfers that are coming in. Are there some things? Did you know much about this program? Did you know much about Coach Hobbs? Have you got a chance to speak to him, whether recently or in the past, about what this program is and the direction that you want to take it?
Yeah, I mean, I actually talked to Coach Hobbs when he retired and talked to him kind of through the process. And then my first visit to Jacksonville after getting the job, I had lunch with him and his wife, and it's like a 2.5-hour lunch, which was great. And he's been super supportive and helpful so far as I'm trying to figure out what I'm doing. But I think just having a little, I'm a little bit younger than Coach Hobbs, and so just a little different energy. I'm very high energy, and being closer in age to the girls, I think I can relate in some ways there that maybe he wasn't able to, and just having a different mindset as far as practice goes, and in the tournaments, and some of the preparation, just being a little more detailed based on my background in contrast to his, I think is the biggest thing that I want to improve on. But from a recruiting standpoint, he's killed it for years, and so that's something I'm definitely going to be bugging him about all the time. Is, hey, how can I do this better and better? Because he's brought in a lot of really good players over the last 22 years, or no, 27 years. Yeah, math.
We're talking with Jacksonville State women's golf coach Robbie Fields. And Coach, I'm curious about recruiting when it comes to women's golf. Is it difficult? Is the kind of the landscape of women to recruit? Is it small, or is it a large field? And what's kind of the pitch when you go out and recruit in women's golf?
Yeah, I mean it's pretty wide because it's all across the world. If you look at our roster here, we've got some Europeans, we've got some South Americans, we've got some girls here from the U.S., and so it's very broad. At times it can be overwhelming because there's so many players to recruit, to look at, to talk to. But I think eventually everybody finds where they're supposed to be, and we're going to find the players we're supposed to get. Obviously, I want to get in the conversation with some of the players with some of the Power 5 conference teams, and I understand I'm not going to get every one of them, but if I can get in the conversation and maybe get one of them, then that's awesome, and that's going to help our team. But I'm also big into player development and developing the players that we do get, and I understand we're not going to get the same players that Auburn and Alabama get, and so we have some polishing to do, but that's exciting to me. And I think the pitch, I'm still learning about Jacksonville and Jacksonville State because this is like day 4 on the job for me. But I think the pitch is just, hey, you're going to come here and have fun. The team is really well bonded already, even with the 6 new players that we've got. And just me as a coach, I'm very player oriented. I get a lot of input from the players on how we're going to do things, but we're going to be very disciplined and detail oriented in how we do things. We're not going to miss the little stuff. And so that's, for right now, the pitch I'm giving recruits until I can learn a little more about Jacksonville State and start recruiting the school and that side of things a little bit more.
100%. Coach, I've always thought the schedule in golf and on the college level has been really interesting because there are some rounds and there are some tournaments, I guess is the better way to say it, or maybe matches that you play in the fall, and then there's a slight break there, and then you pick back up in February, and with the championships all the way in May. It seems like it's almost a full calendar year sport. How do you handle / manage the scheduling overall, and then obviously with the players, because you're on the college level, going to classes and taking care of the academics?
Yeah, I mean, definitely trying to be conscious of not overwhelming them. I was actually talking with Claire yesterday just about some scheduling options, and there's some options to where we could play basically 3 tournaments in about 2.5 weeks, which would be really overwhelming. But, the balance is making sure you're giving them off days. Obviously the NCAA requires 1 a week, but sprinkling in some others in there just so they can actually get some rest. Sprinkling in some fun days where maybe it's not golf and we're hanging out as a team and doing stuff like that. But, we do have an off season, November to January, where for a month, everybody's home for the Christmas break. But, we take it pretty light in that part of the year, but really it's just, managing the day to day and the girls being disciplined to get their work in, but to also take the rest when they need to. Because some of them will be a little hard-headed and won't want to do that. But it is a grind. It's a marathon, and, the first tournament of the year doesn't have as much impact as a conference championship, just like in most sports. But they all do play into the ranking system and how all that works out.
Right.
Robbie Fields, he is the new women's golf coach, the Jacksonville State Gamecocks. Coach, welcome to Jacksonville. Really appreciate you hopping on with us this afternoon. We'll get you back on again soon, but thanks for coming on with us today.
Yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate it, and I'm excited to be here.
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, Coach.
Coach Robbie Fields, he is the new women's golf coach at Jacksonville State. And it is interesting how the kind of the golf schedule works in college. He mentioned that November to January kind of off season,
right?
And then you pick right back up.
Exactly, and he mentioned some of the girls that are playing right now in the summertime, and obviously this doesn't count towards Jacksonville State. But however, they get to play a lot, and they play some in the fall. Most teams start up usually at the beginning of September, and they play a little fall schedule. Then they kind of shut it down right before Halloween. November, December, January, you're off, and then you're back at it in early February. So you kind of go from, and at least in Alabama weather, you kind of go from the fall where it's relatively cool, and then in October you get relatively cool, and then you pick back up in early February where it's really cold, and then you run through the spring, and your championships are in May when the humidity could be, it feels like summertime. So you have to play in a wide range of climates. You have to play in a wide range of places. Jacksonville State does a good job of traveling a lot of different places. There's also great courses right here in the state of Alabama. And obviously they play a lot over at Silver Lakes, just down the road from where we are now. So it's one of those things where it is a grind, as he talked about, but I'm excited for him. I think he'll do a great job with the program.
And it's interesting, too, the fact he brought up when I asked him about recruiting is that it's worldwide. And that's part of golf. You look at these college golf rosters, really, at any school, and you're going to have international players on there.
Exactly. And golf has really taken off from an international standpoint. It always has been an international game, but I think now being able to get international players on college campuses at Jacksonville State has been really key. And whether it's going down south to the South American countries, whether it's Brazil or Argentina, or going across the pond the other way and going towards England. Obviously, Jacksonville State, one of the best golfers in the program history, is Danny Willett from England, who ended up winning a Masters championship. I also have Matt Wallace, who also went to Jacksonville State, also from England as well. So JSU does a really good job recruiting internationally, and thanks to Coach Hobbs for that. And then being able to have now JSU as the program where if an international player comes, has a great experience, they go back home and tell their countrymen and their countrywomen, hey, Jacksonville State is a good place to go. And so it's earned the reputation, deservedly so, and I expect it to continue under Coach Fields.
Absolutely. So Robbie Fields, the new head golf coach of the women's side there at Jacksonville State. Appreciate his time joining us here on WKXX Live. We are brought to you in part by Frank's Roofing. When our studio developed a leak, we called Frank. The estimate was free. The price was fair. His crew was on it. Got it done very efficiently. They got the problem fixed in one visit. They didn't leave a mess. So do what we did. Trust Frank's Roofing for your shingle, metal, or flat roof repair or replacement. Call 256-458-8888. 8531 for a free estimate. That is 256-458-8531. Do what we did. Trust Frank's Roofing. Much more WKXX Live to get to here on this Friday afternoon. Gonna dive into that Hall of Fame game last night a little bit. Talk a little football, as we had football on TV last night. Want to get to some NIL later this hour as well. Lots to cover as we move through this Friday afternoon, finishing up this work week. We've got much more to come. Stick around at WKXX Live, Fox Sports 102.9.
Class, this
We're back here on WKXX Live. Chase and Gerhard with you this afternoon as we work our way through a Friday. We were just talking Jacksonville State golf with their new women's head coach Robbie Fields. If you missed that, we'll have it up on our WKXX Live podcast channel a little bit later on. But Gerhard, we talked about the Live Golf the other day. I want to hit on this for just a second before we get into some football. Just while we're on the golf note, they got the lawsuit going on right now. It's a 105-page antitrust lawsuit. Phil Mickelson, Bryson DeChambeau, and 9 Live Golf players filed against the PGA Tour on Wednesday. And a big, kind of what could be a big role is what Augusta National plays in this.
Mm-hmm.
And it's seeming that the chair there at Augusta National was trying to get these guys not to go over to the Live Tour. And I'm wondering if we could see maybe some of these guys, these Live guys, not being in the Masters in the spring.
Yeah, and I think this one is going to be really interesting. I think it sets the tone. Augusta, will set the tone about what the other majors will do with the Live Golf players moving forward. Now, it is very obvious that the PGA Tour feels threatened by the Live Tour, and obviously it seems that the Live Tour guys were okay with joining Live, number one, because of the paycheck. Some players getting 9 figures, including guys like Brooks Koepka and Bryson DeChambeau, as well as Phil Mickelson. Those guys were getting large chunks of money, but the good side for them was they could still play in the majors. Now, when the Live Golf Tour kicked off this year, all 4 of the majors let the players from Live play in the tournament. There was some whispers here or there that maybe this tournament won't, maybe this tournament won't. All 4 did. Now we enter into a new season. Obviously, those Live guys will not be able to play, whether it's the Ryder Cup, whether it's President's Cup, the FedEx playoffs, and everything else on the backside of the majors. The interesting thing now comes as we enter the 2023 golf season. What do the majors do? The people that run Augusta National, the RNA who runs the British Open, as well as the USGA that runs the US Open, and the PGA Tour of America, that's a different organizer than the PGA Tour. PGA Tour of America runs the PGA Championship. Obviously, the Masters kicks everything off. It almost kicks off the season. It doesn't officially kick off the season, but in most people's minds, it kicks off the season for that year. This is going to get really murky because, as you mentioned, the 11 players from Live have already sued the PGA. If they can now prove if they could prove their antitrust case, they filed it in the same court that essentially sprung the NIL deals. Is a district court in Northern California, and they're really bullish about their antitrust lawsuits. And so this will be a really interesting court case to study, as well as the decision making. Now, Augusta National has plenty of months, plenty of time to make a decision, but we're in a really murky space right now.
Yeah, this will be interesting to follow as it unfolds there in the golf world. I do want to flip over to football, though, because we had football on television last night. And did you catch any of the game?
I did. I caught a little bit of the game. It was interesting because there were a lot of players with Alabama ties in that football game. You talk about guys like Gerhard, former Auburn quarterback, was in the game. Nick Mullins, who played his high school ball over at Spain Park High School. You had Daniel Carlson, who hit 2 field goals, former Auburn kicker, a 32-yarder, 55-yarder. Amir Abdullah, who plays for the Raiders. He had an 8-yard touchdown run. He played over at my alma mater in high school at Homewood High School. And Josh Jacobs played at Alabama.
Yeah.
He suited up in the game. I was actually pretty surprised by that. And then we got a chance to see some rookies as well. A couple of rookies from Georgia. Zamir White, running back for the Raiders, had a good game, 11 carries, 52 yards. And then the number 1 overall pick from Georgia as well, Trayvon Walker, who had a sack. So there was a lot of interesting football notes, even though the 2 starting quarterbacks didn't play in the game. But we did get a good sampling, though, of both players with Alabama ties, as well as just the game overall.
Absolutely. Jarrett Stidham has been with the Patriots organization, now with the Raiders. Like you mentioned, had a chance to play last night. 8 for 15, 96 yards, had a 12-yard touchdown run. What do you see his NFL future being?
I honestly, and I hate to say this, I do see it as a backup. I mean, nobody's going to cry for the backup because you'll make $4 million a year and hold a clipboard. However, I do think his days of the GMs rolling a dice on him as the starter, I think those days are done. However, the good thing is that he can play. And to me, he kind of feels that Colt McCoy, A.J. McCarron role where he's a good leader, good player in the locker room. You can count on him. And knock on wood, but if your starting quarterback gets hurt, maybe out for 2, 3, 4 weeks, he's a guy that you can lean on to at least not embarrass yourself every Sunday. You can lean on him for 3 or 4 game stretches. He looked really good yesterday, but I think that backup quarterback role will be a interesting one to watch over the next couple of games in the preseason because Jared Stidham had a really solid day in the game. I think it was 8 of 15 in the game, 96 yards. You mentioned the 12-yard touchdown run. And then Nick Mullins, he was also in the game as well. He was 8 of 11 for 72 yards. And so Mullins and, to me, Stidham are both backup quarterbacks that are good, steady guys in the locker room. But I don't see another general manager taking a risk on him as a starting quarterback, as a franchise guy moving forward. But he will find his way onto a roster.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is his first year there in Las Vegas. 27-11 was the final score as the Raiders took down the Jaguars. Do you see Jacksonville having the same issues they did last year? I mean, new head coach,
right.
Urban Meyer, of course, head coach last year. New head coach, is it just going to be the same thing?
I don't think so. I think this Jacksonville team has the chance to be one of the more improved teams in the entire NFL. They won 3 games last year, and that was a spectacular debacle at head coach with Urban Meyer. And it started with I'm going to visit my family. Then they saw him at a club, and the team had to answer that. And there was reports that came out that the players didn't necessarily respect him. He's one of the greatest college coaches of all time. I just don't think that translated for him in the NFL. He never could, I don't think, grasp a locker room on the professional level as he did in the college level. All through that, though, Trevor Lawrence was a pro. He was a pro the entire time, took it on the chin, answered every question. And because of him and because of his leadership, I believe that they're in a good space. Then they went and got Doug Peterson, who, in my opinion, he's an upgrade at coach. He's won a Super Bowl, and he works well with quarterbacks because he was a former professional quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah.
That's why I think that this will work really well. I think that the relationship between your head coach and your quarterback is the most important on the team. Outside of relationship between your owner and your general manager, the quarterback head coach is very important. I think they got 2 of the better ones, and I think that they both need each other. Peterson really needed a guy that he could trust that's super talented. I mean, he won a championship with Nick Foles, won a Super Bowl with Nick Foles, beating Bill Belichick in the process. I think he likes Trevor Lawrence, and Trevor Lawrence really needed a guy that can work with him. They thought Urban was that guy. He's not that guy. I don't think that they'll be all that bad, and their schedule really plays in their favor as well because their cross-division, their cross-conference matchups is against the NFC East. And so you could pick up some wins there. Their division is very, very winnable. I know the Colts have a new quarterback in-house as well with Matt Ryan over there. So to me, it'll be really interesting to see how all this really transpires with the Jacksonville Jaguars. But I do expect them to have a much better season this year than last.
Yeah, we'll see. Urban Meyer back with Fox on Big Noon Kickoff Show.
Right. And which I think he's good at that as well.
Yeah,
I think he's a good analyst. Great college football coach. Incredible recruiter. Just didn't cut it in the NFL. I mean, the thing is, the NFL's hard. There's only 32 of those jobs.
Yeah.
It's easier to be a senator of the United States than it is to be a head coach as far as the pure number of jobs that are open. But and especially the ones that succeed. I do think though that he'll be good. He'll be good in that role. He's good on television. He's good about breaking down college football. Urban will be fine, but I think that the Jaguars are going to be in much better hands from a professional football team standpoint.
Absolutely. So NFL preseason games will be cranking up after last night's Hall of Fame game there in Canton, Ohio, and preseason games will begin next week. So you'll get a little glimpse of what's going on with your favorite team there, and they'll get going with the regular season coming up in September. We'll continue to update you on some training camps next week as well across the NFL, but lots going on in college football as well. Want to talk about a new NIL deal, a very unique NIL deal that has come to a particular conference in college football. We will discuss that and more Coming up next, we'll take your phone calls as well as we're working our way until 4 o'clock. It's Jason Gerhard with you here on WKXX Live. More in a moment. You know who WKXX calls for all their
WKXX Live.
Hour number 2 as we make our way through this Friday afternoon. Chase Robinson with you. Gerhard Mathangani alongside here in the Fox Sports 1029 studio. And as we do each and every Friday, we welcome on Brian Mintz. He is the area director of the Etowah County Fellowship of Christian Athletes. Brian, great to talk to you as always.
Great to talk to you, Chase.
How are things going? I know as a coach this time of the year, you'd be getting ready for the school year, getting ready for the season. Practice started. Now, as you're in FCA, what's it like here early August, getting ready for the fall?
Well, it's not dissimilar. Very similar indeed. Just getting geared up, talking to people about huddles, and then being able to get out and visit with the teams, and it's a lot of fun. The anticipation. Everyone right now, hopes are high for everyone, and they're excited to get an opportunity to play. And I think that the summer wears on probably more than it ever has, as the rules have been relaxed some about what you can do and what you can't do. So a lot of these guys have been pretty close to practicing already. So I think that everyone's excited and ready to get to playing against someone else. And, same thing here with as we're thinking about FCA for me is I'm getting excited about a new year. And, one of the things I think I mentioned before when I was talking about our banquet is that, as a coach, I don't think it ever becomes routine, but, you've done it so many times before, and it's important to realize, that for that senior, that's his first time to be a senior. And, be the one in the leadership role or whatever the case it is, the first time to be on the varsity football team. So, no matter how many years we've done this and been around it, for the young people, they're very excited about it because, it's a first for them in some way. And I just want them to make the most of that experience. And also, we want to see them grow in their faith or come to faith. And realize that there is more than football. And one of the things that a coach shared with me many years ago was that, you've got to have an exit plan, because someday you're either going to take play your last snap on the football field or make the last rally on a volleyball court or whatever the case is, and so oftentimes those of us who really, really love the game, get an opportunity to coach and continue being associated with the game for years. But even that, there's going to be a day when that's going to end, and we hope and I can speak from experience to this a great deal is that, it's very, very difficult if you've built your identity around a game. And, we want to see them have their identity in something that's far greater than a game, a sport that they play.
Absolutely. We're talking with Brian Mintz. He is the area director of the Etowah County Fellowship of Christian Athletes. And I know with school starting very soon, that means you'll have the opportunity to be on campus with the huddles and with the teams. What's kind of the plan going into this school year?
Well, I just I think the thing is that we've got to do is we've got to find us some good, identify and train some good student leaders here to pretty quick because we just like the sports team, we graduated some great leaders this past year. So, I think that's going to be probably job one. And then be able to have the huddles and see those grow as we can bring hopefully more and more of our student athletes into the huddles and them have an opportunity to grow in their faith. But Chase, I do want to go back and speak to the victory banquet that we had, because you and I didn't get to speak last week. Man, that was, and you can echo this, I hope, is that, man, it was a great night. Charles Nails first gave his testimony, and he is a cancer survivor and has coached two state championship football teams in the old Gadsden High. And he gave a great testimony. And then, of course, Brett Yancey, who is still fighting a battle against cancer, he gave a great testimony, too. And, you know, I think that's the thing that those guys wanted all those that were there that heard them to realize is that, you know, I can live a life of significance way beyond a field or court or whatever the case is, you know, more than sports. And I just thought they did a great job. And I'm not going to lie, it ran a little longer than I thought it would. But, you know, the part about that just really amazed me was how well the student athletes stayed engaged and were attentive during the whole thing. And I thought it was very impactful, and of course, I want it to be excellent, and I think it was.
I think so too. I thought it was a great night, and hearing from Brett Yancey, who is in the midst of his battle, to hear him come up on stage to share, to I'm sure battle through just that sickness, to be there to speak was really incredible to hear his testimony. And I know you, having coached him in high school, that was special for you to be able to hear that from him as well.
It is very much so, and Brett is a guy that I love. You know, he there's just when you're coaching, there's certain guys that you just have an attraction to, a special relationship with, and you know, for me that was numerous guys, and there would be several on each team. And that's not to say that I didn't love and you know, enjoy all of the kids that I coached, but you know, as a coach, you're only human, and it's you are attracted to for various reasons, different ones, and he was one of those guys that was just special, you know, and it wasn't necessarily because of him having great skills, because I've had players through the years that were probably more skillful in throwing a ball or running or doing whatever, but it was the leadership and the work ethic is things that I remember the most about him, the toughness. And man, that toughness is serving him well.
Yeah.
Serving him well. So.
It sure is, and I want to appreciate you for lining that up for him to speak last week there at the FCA banquet. I thought it was a great night hearing his testimony. Brian Mintz, he's the area director of the Etowah County Fellowship of Christian Athletes. Brian, really appreciate it, you as always, for coming on with us, and we'll talk to you again next week.
All right, thank you for the opportunity, Chase.
Absolutely, thank you. Brian Mintz of the Etowah County Fellowship of Christian Athletes joining us here, as he does each and every Friday. But really, really cool last week being able to hear Brett Yancey kind of share what he's been going through and will go through. And as I was talking to him before he went on stage, he said that he knows you.
Yeah. I've known Coach Yancey for a really long time. He was He was a great assistant coach. I think I met him when he was maybe probably at Glencoe, but then obviously when he went to Southside as well. And I've known him for a long time, and I've known him before his diagnosis. I've known him, since he's been diagnosed, and he's the same guy. He's just a dedicated father, a great coach. He's the kind of coach that's in it for all the right reasons, all the good reasons, and he's the kind of coach that you want your son or daughter to go play for, and they'll be taken care of with him. And so it's not any surprise to me that he feels the love coming back to him as he gives his testimony about his walk in his faith, his walk with Christ, and being able to share his testimony as he battles something that has touched us all in some way, some form, some fashion. And you heard the emotion in Coach Mint's voice, and a large part of that is because of Coach Yancey, and there's several others. I obviously don't want to just single him out here. There's several others who have such a great testimony, such a good person of character, and he's exactly that. And obviously wish him the best as he continues to fight. But he's an amazing person, and he's giving it an amazing fight.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great to hear him speak last week. We'll grab a timeout here, come back, a little more high school football talk on the other side. Stick around. It is WKXX Live here on Fox Sports 102.9.
I'm Andrew Saul, Commissioner of Social Security.
what you feeling right now for you and your Arab night?
Well, my first initial feeling is summer's over, and the second feeling is, it's good to be back in the swing of things. We didn't have any spring practice last year, so we started earlier. We've been, a week in, and I'm excited. I'm excited about this team. I'm excited about this group of seniors. They're focused. They're dialed in, and of course every team is at this point. So, but I really am excited. I think potentially we could be competitive, and I think depending on what happens in the next 2 weeks, I think that'll determine what kind of team we have.
When you look at this team, when you look at the roster, when you see the guys out in the field, what stands out to you about this team you're going to be putting on the field this year?
I tell you, it's a good question, and it's character. I think our team has a different character to it. Are we more talented than other teams that will play? No, we're not. Are we as talented? Maybe. But I think the difference that this team has is it's got a character, and it's not just a team that's always doing the right thing or whatever. You have to put your thumb on them. But what this team does, they know how to practice and they know how to compete, and they compete well with each other. They want each other to get better, and what is really, really interesting about this team is when somebody is successful, they genuinely, all of them get excited, and that's not always the case. It hadn't always been the case, and it's refreshing to be around. But this team really does pull. They pull for each other. They want each other to do good, and they hold each other accountable. And so the thing that most impresses me about this group, especially this group of seniors, is the character. It's a good group of with character.
Now, is this more of a veteran team, a lot of new guys, mix? What's kind of the layout of your team this year?
Well, we're a veteran team, but we're a bunch of new guys. We're gonna put a bunch of seniors on the offensive line, but most of them will be first-year starters. So we're going to put a senior quarterback on the field. That's not a first-year starter. He actually started 2 years ago. Aiden Cox was our starter 2 years ago because our starter got hurt. Well, then last year our starter was back, Ed Johnson, who was an all-region, quarterback, and Aiden wasn't, his role was second team last year. So he comes to me and asks me if he could play special teams. So I put him on special teams. And to me, that spoke volumes of his character, So it's going to be a group of guys that are gritty. It's going to be a group of guys that know how to compete. It's going to be a group of guys that have been in the big moment and have failed, but it's been a bunch of guys that have tasted some success as well. So it's going to be interesting to watch.
Talk about just when you took over the football program at Arab, kind of what you've seen since that point. Y'all have been able to win some games, and so just talk about kind of what you've seen this program kind of grow since you took over there at Arab.
And this group, one of the main things is this group was in 8th grade when I first took the job. So I've kind of been with this group for all 4 years. This will be 4, and it was interesting because I really, when they were in the 8th grade, I would get to go and work them out in the 8th grade, and I really enjoyed going to watch them work because they did have even back then they had like a good camaraderie. They knew each other's strengths, knew each other's weaknesses. You judge a team sometimes by how much they make fun of each other, and they just reel on each other all the time, but they're a brotherhood, And of course, you have to break up some fights sometimes. But to me, a team that won't fight each other won't fight for each other. And this team will fight for each other. I'm quite sure of that. But the evolution of it has been this. There's nothing special about what I'm doing. I just haven't left. And I think that's been kind of the pattern at Arab has been you get a head coach, and they've had some really, really great head coaches in the past, but they'll take the first train out as soon as they achieve some success, and then they're back to square one. And but I don't intend on going anywhere. I love it there, and I intend on staying. So I mean, really, there's nothing special. There's no special sauce. It's just the fact that, there's been some continuity. This will be the second year we've been under the same offensive and defensive coordinators, and that shows. That kind of stuff shows up on the field when the system is the same and they know the system and they know what's expected during practice. It shows up, and it has this summer, and it has so far this fall.
When you look at the schedule, look at your region, what kind of stands out to you when you look at those teams you're going to be playing week in and week out?
Well, I mean, we were 6A last year, and we moved down to 5A, but that doesn't mean anything. And people want to say, well, you're happy to be down to 5. I'm happy that we're together. I don't care whether we're 5A, 6A, or 4A, or 7A. I'm happy that we're together, and we're gonna be able to play some good quality opponents and see how we measure up. I mean, that to me is the heart of what this sport does. It's man versus man. It's and you go out there and throw your best at them. They throw their best at you, and you see who's still standing at the end of it.
That was Lee Osment, Arab head football coach, as the Knights get ready for a season in Class 5A. And I mentioned they almost were region champions in 6A last year. Oxford defeated them there on that field goal, but the Arab Knights are looking for a playoff win.
Right. I mean, they have obviously had a run of success here lately with Coach Osment, but team-wise, it has not been the case at Arab. They've only had 10 playoff appearances in their entire history, and Coach Osment has 2 of them in the past 2 years.
Yeah.
They're looking for their first playoff win since 2010, and that's the only playoff win in school history. So they're on the verge. They're tasting success. They're on the verge of it, and I think that Coach Osment is really, really happy that this group, he feels like, number one, get to the playoffs, and then 2, win a playoff game. This school's been playing football since 1922, Chase. That's a little after the First World War, and they've played since then. And obviously they didn't play during the World War, obviously, and then during the second one. But yeah, they played since 1922. It's almost 100 years, and they have 1 playoff victory. And I think that they're knocking on the door. 8 wins last year, got to the playoffs, and I think that Coach Osment could be the coach that takes them over the hump there for that playoff win. And as you mentioned in your interview, they go back to 5A as well. And so I know that most coaches say, it's the same football. It really is. It does. The gap in size, the gap in your team size does change a lot between 5A and 6A.
One thing that stands out to me about this Arab team, whenever a coach comes in and, this is year 4, he's had this same group since they were in 8th grade, and now they've worked their way through the system.
Right.
To me, you see a lot of success when you, first of all, have a coach that stays that long, but just the continuity under a guy like Lee Osment, these guys have been playing and working under.
Right.
I think that's a recipe for success.
Exactly. And you and I are in this media space, and so we get to go to a lot of these media days. We get to talk to a lot of coaches, and coaches always bring this up. Year 3, 4, 5, 6. Hey, now we're in a program where all the guys know the way that we like to do it. The coaching staff likes to do it. Some coaching staffs like to go all the way to peewee ball, like the 5, 6, 7-year-old kids, and get them on the same quote unquote program. They obviously can't run the exact same stuff as the varsity players can, but get the terminology close to the same as they'll have. So there is that continuity there. Coaches really, I think, understand that their footprint, their blueprint really gets laid down here in years 3, 4, 5, and 6, because now you've had all these players, as Coach said, since 8th grade to learn the system, to learn how they're going to be coached, to learn how practice runs, to learn how they are supposed to improve in the weight room, to learn how they're going to watch film. Every coach is a little bit different, and there's no one way to do it. If there was, we would have found that out by now, and everybody would be doing it that way. There's certain ways to do it, and I believe that the longer coaches stay, they can implement their style of doing it. And I think Coach Osment obviously has the trust of his team. He sounds like the makeup of his team is in a really good space, and I believe that's because of the culture he's curated down there, over there in Arab, I should say.
Absolutely. High school football 2 weeks away from kicking off. Again, we are your home for Hoax Bluff High School football. The Eagles' first game will be against Southside, Big Etowah County rivalry there on Thursday, August 25th is the first game for the Hoax Bluff Eagles. And, of course, we'll have that for you here on Fox Sports 102.9. We're going to talk a little college football coming up next. Who is our top 5 SEC quarterbacks? We'll give that list to you coming up next.
also seen high level production from a lot of these guys as well. So yeah, breaking down the top 5 was really hard. I really had about a top 7 that I had to trim down to 5.
So these are our top 5 SEC quarterbacks. So we're going to go 5-1, and we're going to go back and forth. I'll start with my 5. Gerhard to give his 5, and we'll go from there. My number 5 quarterback of the SEC is Will Levis.
Okay. Well, all right.
Of Kentucky there. And he's one of those, he had good numbers last year. A lot of hype. I just don't know if he's going to live up to that hype. But I got him at 5.
Okay. My number 5, I'm going to go with Hendon Hooker of Tennessee. Last year, really solid season overall. He's a dual threat guy, 2,900 passing yards, 31 touchdowns, only 3 interceptions. And also he can run the ball as well, over 600 yards rushing. And I really love his coach, Josh Heupel, former quarterback. He knows how to work with quarterbacks. He is very, very, very smart. You could tell he's a leader. He's well thought. He's really articulate and really just a really sharp guy. He's written a book already. He's a good team leader. I loved what I heard from him at SEC Media Days. I got Hooker at number 5.
All right. So number 4 on our top 5 SEC quarterbacks as we count down from 5-1. I've got Stetson Bennett of Georgia.
Okay.
At number 4.
Right. Okay.
And I struggled with this one. But the perseverance he showed through the season, the way he was able to get the job done, I put him at number 4.
Okay, and 4 I have where you had Will Levis there at the number 4 spot, mainly because of his attributes going into the year. He led a Kentucky team to a 10-win season, a 10-3 overall record. 2,800 passing yards, 24 touchdowns, 13 interceptions. If he can get that interception number down, completed 66% of his passes, I think he'll be good. He had about 27 attempts per game passing last year. I think they'll throw him probably a little bit more. I would think in the 30 to 35 attempts per game. So I think he'll get more opportunities there. I really love what Kentucky's done with their offense around him. You listen to the draft guys, they all love him. He wants to put good tape out there to be able to make max money there when the NFL draft comes around next spring. So I got Levis at 4.
All right, number 3, I've got KJ Jefferson of Arkansas. I like him. I like him a lot.
Yeah, he was one of my honorable mentions. If I had a top 7, KJ Jefferson was definitely in there. But my number 3 is going to be Stetson Bennett. Last year, you have to remember that he ended up having a strong season towards the end of the year. Completed 64.5% of his passes, 2,800 yards, 29 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. But keep in mind, at the beginning of the year, he had to split a lot of the reps because he had to earn the job because JT Daniel was competing for that starting quarterback job with him. He is now the man, led his team to a national championship. I think he's got all the confidence in the world. I think Kirby and the offense will now hand the entire offense to him. There's some of the pieces from that offense are gone. Zamir White, some of the other running backs, but they recruited so well. So I believe that he'll take that next step up. So even though I think that Levis might have more talent than Stetson Bennett does, I still have Stetson Bennett 3.
Number 2, I've got Hendon Hooker of Tennessee.
Oh, okay.
For a lot of the reasons you said, I just think he fits this offense so well. I think he fits Josh Heupel so well. And I think he's going to do big things this year. I think Tennessee's going to do big things this year.
Yeah.
People aren't as hyped about them. And I think they're going to be number 2 in the SEC. So I got Hendon Hooker.
Wow.
Number 2.
Wow. Really high on Hooker. But I agree with a lot of those things. And I think he can have a breakout year. My number 2, I'll go with Will Rogers of Mississippi State. He had a dynamic year last year throwing the football. The second to only Bryce Young in yards, 4,700 yards, 36 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. Of course, with Coach Leach's offense, they'll throw the ball all over the field.
Yeah.
But I like that they give him good, easy throws. He had the number 1 completion percentage in the SEC at 74%. I mean, 3 out of 4 passes essentially completed. They give him nice, easy throws, but he's got a great arm. Working with Coach Leach, obviously that's going to be a big part of their offense, their offensive game this year. The NFL scouts are high on him, so in a lot of ways, like Levis, he wants to put good tape out there. So I have Will Rogers number 2, and really banking on the Pirate to have him have a really good year this year.
And I think they're set up to have a good year.
Yeah.
And Will Rogers especially. They throw the ball a lot. I think he should have a good year, and and they have faith in coach there, giving him that extension at the beginning of the summer.
Yep.
Number one, and I imagine we'll probably have both have the same number one, the reigning Heisman Trophy winner, Bryce Young.
Yeah, 4,800 yards, 47 touchdowns, set single season marks at Alabama, 67% completion percentage, just 7 interceptions. First year as a starter, I mean, he really kind of soaked in a lot of what he learned from Mac Jones. When Mac Jones went pro, he fit in seamlessly. If you hear Coach Saban talk about him, he gushes about him. And Coach Saban rarely does that, but gushes about his leadership. And there's some things that he wants to work on. There's some people comparing him, and I think this is maybe a little unfair early on because this is one of the best quarterbacks of all time, but people making comparisons to Aaron Rodgers. Just the way that he throws the ball he's just very effortless. He could throw it on the move. There's some things that he wants to work on with this game, but there's no doubt, in my opinion, Bryce Young is the top quarterback in this league.
Absolutely. So that's something to get you ready for some SEC football in just a few weeks, less than a month away from SEC football.
Exactly. And one of the things about the SEC, I was talking about this list, and as we were making this list, and you and I didn't even talk about, who was going to be on our list. We knew that Bryce Young would probably be number one, but keep in mind, there's another interesting storyline going into the year. Auburn, Texas A&M, LSU, and Ole Miss all have quarterback battles, and all with really good players as well. So it could be a situation at the end of the year, the top 5 guys that we have might include somebody who's not even on this list because they're battling for a starting job as we speak.
That's a really good point there. And I think even, Will Rogers wasn't on my list, but a guy that was on neither one of our lists, Spencer Rattler at South Carolina.
Yes.
You kind of forget about him because he's at South Carolina, but I think he could do pretty good there.
Exactly. If he can relive, if he can channel what he did 2 years ago before the hype got blown up, and I think everything in Oklahoma, I think he just got over his skis a little bit, and then obviously Caleb Williams came in there and took that job over. But if Shane Beamer can get out of him what he looked like a couple of years ago when he really took off there at Oklahoma, I think he's in really good shape. And the fact that he got to choose Oklahoma, there's probably a lot of the offense personnel that he really liked. So he went to a place where he felt comfortable. Obviously the NIL really helped out. Reportedly he signed a pretty big NIL deal there. So we'll find out. But Spencer Rattler is another good one, another kind of a dark horse guy that I won't be a bit surprised if he's at the top of the league, one of the top quarterbacks in the league when it's all said and done.
Absolutely. So that's our top 5 SEC quarterbacks for the 2022 season. We'll grab a timeout here. We'll come back and go into our final segment here of the week on this Friday afternoon. It is WKXX Live, and we will continue in a moment. We're back here on this Friday afternoon, rolling into our final few minutes of the week. Chase Robinson, Gerhard, Mathangani here with you, wrapping up week one together here on WKXX Live. And as we go into this final segment, something we'll kind of do on Fridays is maybe what we can watch this weekend, what's going to be on, and then kind of take a look back at the week that was. So, Gerhard, what can we watch coming up this weekend?
I'm really excited about this weekend, Chase. There's a lot of interesting things on television that we can watch. Obviously, we talked at length about the Braves and Mets. That obviously will go probably on the main TV. If you have a multi-TV setup, that's going on the main one as those two teams battle in division. Another element in baseball, how about the Yankees and Cardinals? Right now, the Yankees are the best team in the American League. The Cardinals right now, they've stormed back in the NL Central, playing in a interdivision game. A cross league game. The Cards are now just a half game back of the Brewers. The Yankees, meanwhile, are on a 3-game losing streak. So you have one of the best teams on a losing streak and a team that's really fighting right now on a winning streak. They'll play today, tomorrow, and Sunday. How about also staying in baseball, the Padres and the Dodgers? Should be an interesting matchup there. New look Padres with both with Juan Soto, Josh Hader, and Josh Bell. The Dodgers, the best record in all of Major League Baseball. San Diego right now 11.5 games back. However, they're firmly in the wild card there with the Atlanta Braves. Two teams right now. I think the moves that the Padres made were to catch the Dodgers, not just this year, but over the course of the next few years. And I believe that'll be a really interesting series. And then finally in NASCAR, they're going to Michigan to race. Of course, Michigan is kind of, you associate cars and NASCAR and racing with the state of Michigan. They're going to Michigan International Speedway, and the next generation car will race for the first time there at Michigan International Speedway. This is also the final month of the regular season. They got Michigan, Richmond, Watkins Glen, then Daytona, and then we got the playoffs. So we're hitting the home stretch there. The next gen car comes out. So those are the top 4 things on what to watch this weekend.
There you go. Lots to watch. Those are all really good things there. And we'll do that on Friday, get you ready for the weekend, and let you know what to watch. But we've covered a lot this week.
Right.
We dove headfirst in Monday. First of all, it's been great to have you to start this, to be together. We had a lot of great guests, a lot of information come down the line this week. If you had to choose a few things maybe that we talked about on the show, that we discussed, information, and then really just looking at all the sports of this week, what stood out to you on this week?
Yeah, obviously with a 2-hour show, you can't get to every single thing, and even when we get into football season, it'll be the exact same. However, I think the biggest thing from this past week that we'll take, and it's kind of a somber note, it's obviously remembering the legacies, the huge legacies left by Bill Russell and Vin Scully. I mean, those two names will echo not just in their sport, baseball and basketball, but it'll echo throughout time as it relates to the greatest to ever do what they do for a living and do it with such dignity and such grace. In a lot of ways, they are so similar as human beings, and you hear people that talk about them that knew them saying a lot of the same things as far as what they meant to their sport, what they meant to people in and around them. Gracious, classy, dignified people that we can look up to as human beings, as a human race, and look up to those two people. Obviously, remembering their legacy is one thing. And then another thing, a kind of interesting story happening right now in the world of women's golf. It's kind of ironic that we had the new women's golf coach at Jacksonville State, Coach Fields, on with us earlier. Interesting dynamics playing on overseas right now. We had the men's British Open a couple of weeks ago, or this weekend we had the women's British Open. And how about Jessica Korda, one of the top players on the women's circuit? Well, her luggage was stuck in the Zurich airport in Switzerland. Well, they're playing in Muirfield, Scotland, so they're trying to get her luggage back. So she's having to borrow clothes. Yesterday, she borrowed pants from Megan Kane. Yesterday or Tuesday, she borrowed her sister's pants. Yesterday, Allison Lee's pants. Today, she's wearing FootJoy pants. And throughout all of that, golfers are really they're really, really specific about the clothes they wear and about, the look, the feel. Well, even all through that, Korda shot a 5 under 66 in the first round. She puts herself squarely in contention to win a major championship. 4 birdies and an eagle on that first round. So congratulations to Megan Korda playing in difficult circumstances overseas in clothing that might not fit perfectly and still shooting a great round of golf.
She may forget her bag in a lot of major tournaments coming up. But yeah, it's been a great weekend, and kind of to echo you as far as the legacies that were lost this week. I think of Vin Scully just being in the business that we are, and being in broadcasting. You look up to some of these guys.
Oh,
you
yeah.
want to be like some of these guys. And Vin Scully's one of those guys that, I've always loved listening to him, want to be like him, and calling baseball games. But yeah, definitely a legacy loss there. But it's been a great week on a lot of other fronts as well. Football season is my favorite time of the year.
Oh yeah.
And
Same.
so to know that fall camp has started in college football, that practice has started in high school football all across the state. That is it's my favorite time of the year leading up into the season.
There is no better feeling than the start of something. Obviously, this time of year, kids get really excited about the start of school, and you have your new teacher, and there's that new energy that signals the start of something fresh. Well, football season does the exact same thing, and playing it, there are these certain little moments where you walk out to the practice field, it's freshly cut, and you got that grass smell in the air, and then you go to your first few games, it's a little bit warm, and at the end of the season it's going to be really cold. You play under two different climates there in the span of 10 weeks. But at the beginning of the season, with so many teams, there's so many teams that we know, hey, they'll have a good year. They're returning X amount of players. But for everybody, because everybody's 0-0, everybody can think of themselves as the team that holds up that championship. There's only 7 that will in high school football, only 1 in college, and only 1 in the professional leagues. But as of right now, 300 plus teams think they can win it, and they have a legitimate chance to win it because everybody's at ground zero. Nobody can win anything or lose anything right now. Nobody can win a championship in week 1. You have to go throughout the grind. So just that anticipation that everybody has internally is always so much fun.
It is. It's a great time of the year. And it always flies by, too. I mean, football season goes 100 miles an hour, it feels like, every year, especially with how busy we can be during the season. But it is football's firing up, and next week we'll dive right back into it, getting you ready for high school, college, pro football, and we'll continue to walk through the teams next week, get you ready for the season. 2 weeks from tonight, high school football is going to be kicking off across Northeast Alabama. So we'll continue to preview that. We've got so much to get to. Good stuff on TV this weekend you can check out. We'll be back with you on Monday for a new week, 2 to 4. Back at it. It's been a fun week.
It certainly has, and I want to say thank you. I said this on Monday, but just thank you, you personally, to helping kind of arrange this, and the team right here at Fox Sports 102.9. I'm so grateful taking on a relative newbie, so to speak, as I mentioned last week or going into this week, and kind of taking me in. And I hope I didn't screw it up too much.
No.
And I feel like this was perfect, and I really enjoyed it.
It's been a blast, and we get to do it again starting Monday, 2 to 4. Join us then. Have a great weekend.